actually picking up my kiddo, and it's my first time picking her up from this new school, and I had no idea where to go. And a police officer was nice enough to direct me where to go, so I had to stop my life. But as I was saying, it's not your actions that really get you to be with God. It's the grace that we have of Him. It's the grace that He sees our heart, and sees that we're trying. We make mistakes and we're changing our ways. That's what He sees. That's what He cares. And I say that because there's someone once told me, where how is it fair for somebody who keeps committing murders and hurting little kids and things like that? um how do they get grace? Well, they don't get grace. That's something that I learned, is that they don't get grace, because the whole point about grace is you asking for forgiveness and changing your ways. That's the whole thing about grace. And like I said, when my friend brought up this conversation of, well, Nikki, I'm good then, I have never committed a murder, never, stolen and things of that nature. I explained to her that in the New Testament, it also states that it talks about anger. Are you a person that you have anger, and are you cursing somebody because you're so mad at them? You know, it's just pretty much that right there just disqualifies us from being with God. We all have it, and I thought that it was interesting to open the Bible, because it describes what a lot of us we are, right? It describes it's pretty much like a checklist, and if you apply to any of them, then you do not deserve to go to heaven. And anger is the one thing that everyone struggles with. Every single one of us. So none of us are perfect. None of us are deserving to go to heaven. If you think you're this person's, well, I donated here, or I gave money to this one friend, I know God is going to keep that in mind. There's a phrase or something like that, that whenever you do something good for somebody, we say, oh, we gain a step to heaven. And after a long time, I used that so much. And then when I came to read the Bible, that nothing really gets me to heaven. My actions are not the ones that get me to heaven. It's what Jesus did for me. It baffles me, and I stop using that phrase. And I know it's very popular, and if you're one of those that use it, please just don't use it no more, because you're gonna let other people believe, who have not opened the Bible. And if you haven't either, and you're probably not aware of this, but it's misleading. It's not what your actions do that gain you to go to heaven or step to heaven. Is the grace of God. Period. That's it. It's what Jesus did for us. It's that sacrifice that He had. To He knew what was coming, y'all. He knew it. We see this in the New Testament. He's getting His disciples ready to be strong for whenever Jesus was not going to be here anymore, and He was telling them time to time to time. It's, imagine you knowing that your time, your hour was coming, when you're going to die for the whole world. Only somebody perfect, as somebody so perfect like Him, can be okay with that. And we also see it in the Bible that he was anxious about it. He was anxious was about what was about to happen. That human inside of him, he was extremely anxious. But at the end of the day, he will tell God, I trust what you want. I trust it completely. And I wish we all had that trust, right? I wish we can just be like, okay, God, I know what you're doing it, and then that's it. But we don't. That human part of us does not allow us to completely trust God and His plans and what He's doing. And I completely can relate to that. So I don't know if you can relate to that. Um, Foot Gaming, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hello, hello, you guys. Hi, under you. Okay, that's just interesting title. Just sub like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe buttons. I think there's somewhere over here. I can't even get my finger right. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. But yeah, as I was saying, so my friend was kept talking to me, about, that she has never committed murder before, so then she's good. Then God is I feel like she was making herself look perfect, and none of us are perfect. None of us, you know. It's not what we do for God that gets us to heaven. It's what God has done for us, you know. And the a lot of the old commandments and the Old Testament, if you go to the new one, you can see that Jesus came to change a lot of that. And that was really important that we follow that. You know, we it's important that we read the Bible and we get to understand the differences of the old commandments and the new commandments, because a lot of people are stuck in the old, what they're saying, well, I have never murdered, so then I'm good, I'm never going to be judged. But that's not the case. If you read the new one says something completely, you know, it says that, and it's also added, talks about anger. If you're a person that you're angry, you curse someone, you know, you have a debt with someone that, um, that could be, you know, you're mad at that person and you haven't asked for forgiveness, or that person hasn't asked for forgiveness. That's a debt right there that you have with someone. And I feel like that's why it's not healthy to be angry at someone for a very long time. You know, these commandments are not written for whoever you're mad at. These commandments are written for you to, you know, to be able to let go of anger, to be able to let go of pain. I always tell my kiddo, you know, if you're mad at someone and someone did something to you, you have to let it go, because that person probably already moved on, doesn't even know why you're mad at them. They don't even think of you anymore, but you're the one holding on to that anger. Now someone once asked me, well, what about forgiveness? What if, you know, if do I need to ask forgiveness from someone that is not healthy for me to have them in my life? I absolutely don't agree that you have to go and see that person and ask for forgiveness. You know, just far away, you can write a letter, or you can tell God, please help me forgive this person. Or you can just say it within your heart, I forgive you, I let you go. I forgive you and I let you go. Because holding on to that anger is horrible, y'all. It hurts your being, it hurts your soul. So this is why God left us all these teachings, you know, the commandments, so we can follow that and find, you know, a better way, instead of just sitting there and hating somebody who probably doesn't even remember you, or who probably doesn't even know you were mad at them or why you were mad at them. You know, I have a quite an interesting, very absent relationship with my father. And about a couple of years ago, when I wanted to see him, he had chosen to not see me, and it hurt. You know, ultimately I was doing that action because, you know, my sister, my younger sister, was asking me for that, and my husband was telling me to find closure on that, and I agreed to that. That's the only reason I agreed, because of them too. When I did, his answer was he wasn't ready to see me. It 100% hurt. At the same time, I knew that I needed to forgive him. Now, calling him was not going to get that forgiveness. You know, me calling him was only going to open more stuff, and it was going to hurt a lot more. So I chose to make it a daily routine of letting him know that I forgive him, of letting him know that I love him and I forgive him, and I'm letting him go, and I need to let him go. It's, you know, there are moments that I realize, yes, I have let him go, and then there's moments whenever it hurts, I tell myself I'm good. You know, God, again, I'll say, forgive me if I hurt you, and I forgive you as well. I don't need to have him in front of my face to tell him that I forgive him. I don't need to be in front of him in order for me to ask for forgiveness. I know I done my part, and I have shared this with God, and I can let that pain go, and I can move on. So it doesn't hurt as much. Time has helped me heal. God has helped me heal. And I actually feel like my chapter with him has ended, in the sense that I finally was able to let go, and let go of other traumas, right? Not having my father present, that's a trauma. But I was able to let him go, and it feels a nice healing. And that is what the whole thing was about with anger. That anger that I had towards him was not letting me move on, and God needed me to let that go. Um, because it holds you. It really hurts you. It hurts you for a very sorry, you guys. I have some allergies. There's something going on in Texas, but it's Texas weather. It always gets like this. But yeah, so when I was talking to my friend about anger, that's what I was telling her, just the fact that you get angry. And I know she's gotten angry, and I've seen it when she's gotten angry. That's what God talks about judgment. We will be judged because of that. And when we open the Bible, if you're one of those persons that you feel like, well, I never done this, I never done this, I never done this, so then I'm good, I'm qualified, I'm good with God. That's not how it works. If you're going to choose a checklist, then let me tell you just one of them, such as anger, already disqualified you from being from with God. And those are the things that we need to remember. I love opening the Bible, and because I feel like it reads and it describes every single one of us. Literally every single one of us. And if you ever felt too perfect, the Bible is going to humble you down and let you know that you are far away from being perfect, completely far away from being perfect. And that's why I always tell people open the Bible, start with the New Testament, not the Old Testament, start with the New Testament. Why? To me, I feel that when Jesus came down, he changed a lot of these commandments. He changed it so we can't be stuck on the old commandments. He came to redo everything and show us something completely different. So you'll see a lot in the Bible, whatever says this. I like to say, like, our ancestors say this, but this is what I say now. And this is what I say now. And that has a lot of what he says now. And it's interesting how things change. It's interesting how it really humbles you and it makes you realize that we are not deserving of his love. I mean, I think it baffles me how, like, Jesus knew almost right at his time, the hour, the minute, the second, how he was going to die and who he was doing it for. And he was anxious. If we read in the Bible, he had that anxiousness and he asked God if there was another way. But ultimately he told God, I know it's going to be your way, it's your plan. That human in him doubted that plan for a second, but ultimately, he got back again in his horse and says, okay, if this is what you want, then I'm going to do it. You have a purpose. And the fact that he knew how much of a sinners, how much a lot of us did not believe, or a lot of us only wanted to believe if we saw an action, if we saw a miracle. I am sure a few times he probably looked at us like, God dang, I'm about to, die for y'all. And y'all just keep asking things from me again and again. I can't believe these people do not see the truth. And he noticed that he was about to die for us, but he did it. He still did it. I mean, imagine knowing the day, that minute, that hour, how you're going to die. It's going to freak you out and you're probably going to run the other way. But Jesus did not do that. He was perfect and he was so loving that he knew that the only way we can have a space in heaven is by what he was about to do, to die for us, to be, whipped the way he did, all these crazy things that you really see in the Bible. It baffles me. And there's a movie, Passion of the Christ, and I feel like that is only, if y'all see it, I recommend you to go see Passion of the Christ, because the way he was whipped, the way he was crucified hurt. I feel like that's not even a quarter of an, like, not even close enough, not even halfway or a tiny little piece of what Jesus had to go through. And it's so bloody and it's so painful when you see that you get to feel like, wow, Jesus died for me and went through all this. And we are here complaining about a job or a car. And now I'm not saying this that I'm not, because I don't no longer complain and I no longer do all those things. I still do those things. I'm still human. I still fall apart sometimes and say, God, why? But the whole thing is about getting back up again and trusting that God is doing something. Knowing that faith is about just living life without knowing every single answer or having every single answer. I'm sorry, knowing every single question and having every single answer. It's about trusting Him in what He is doing for us. Um, it doesn't make sense. And today I woke up with that feeling like this doesn't make sense. My life doesn't make sense, but I just hope, God, that whatever I'm doing, it makes a difference to somebody, it inspires someone, because that's why I'm here for. I really love to inspire people and I love to hear other people's stories and feel inspired as well. I think that it's amazing. One thing that also I'm learning is to learn to listen to people. I think, we forget to do that. You guys don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button. My kiddo's about to get out, so I'm just wanted to be here, jump in really quick, and just give a message to someone that might be going through a tough time. Uh, you know, um, I'm not an expert, and I always love to tell people I'm not a Bible expert by no mean. There's amazing scholars out there that know a lot more about the Bible, but I wanted people to see that just a regular person who, her faith has been broken, but she's trying to build it back again. How does it look? Because when I started dealing with my faith, struggling with my faith and trying to find answers, I could not find anyone anywhere that can tell me, or that I can see and relate to. It's always okay, they always show you when they're succeeding, but they never ever show you when they're struggling. And I think that the world needs a lot more of that, to show when we're struggling, to show when we're hurting, so we can feel more relatable, so we can see that, we all go through moments like that, and there is hope. There is a way to come back again, and you will, from whatever you're going through. So definitely, I do think that a lot. But like I said, you only get to see on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook people that are already succeeding, but you never get to see that hard, tough part of them when they lost God. Or, well, not lost God, because God is always there, but I guess when you start being angry at Him. So yeah, so that's I wanted to jump in and talk about that, because like I said, I feel like if a lot of us feel, if you read the Old Testament, it only talks about murdering, if you ever murder anyone, and then you tell yourself, well, I have never murdered anyone, so I'm good, I'm never going to be judged. But in the New Testament, it changes things. So always, hi Masood, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Foot game, yes, I'm okay. Are you okay, darling? So yeah, so that's the one thing I wanted to, talk about. I always advise people, if you want to learn about God, start in the New Testament. Don't go to the Old Testament. It's really, really complicated. So always start with the New Testament. It sounds more loving. The New Testament is a little bit more loving and more understanding. The Old Testament is a lot, I feel, anger, and it's a lot of punishment and stuff like that. But if you understand it, then that is super great. I congratulate you. And also, if y'all want to share like your best scripture in the Bible, or what is your best chapter? For me, the first three, I think, is Matthew, Lucas, and John. I'm not sure, something like that. The first four actually are my favorite. Um, I keep going back and forward, with the Bible, but someone once told me, just read the Bible and keep reading it. Do not get frustrated. If you didn't understand your verse at that time, you'll come back to it, you'll read it again, and you'll understand it. Because sometimes, y'all, we go through things in life, and when we open the Bible and we start reading it, when something makes sense, it's because it was needed for that time that you were struggling, where something you were struggling about, right? So, for example, if you open the Bible and you're having a hard time in your relationship, there's something about that in the Bible. And when you read it, you're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, that is what I'm going through. This is what God wants me to do." And then you'll jump to the next verse and then it doesn't make sense. It's okay. Just keep going. I know people that have read the Bible 10 times, and every single time they read the Bible is something different. And also know that whatever verse you read and you share with me, I'm going to read it and understand it completely different, completely different. Because God speaks to you and speaks to me in completely different ways. So don't feel bad if you have shared a verse with someone and they're just like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not what I read. That's not what I understood. But yeah, so I definitely advise you to open the Bible, start reading it, and know that God speaks to you through the Bible and also speaks to you when you're in the car, when you are at home alone, when you're having a hard time. God speaks to you wherever you go. So just don't think that the Bible is going to be all the answers. It's a great way to start, but also know that you got to keep that communication, that conversation with Him. Some people call it prayer, some people call it conversation. I like to call it a conversation with God. And it's just, it's just the way, I guess, the way I roll. But yes, so open the Bible and have a conversation with Him. Thank you, you guys, for tuning in. If y'all want to tell me what you're tuning in, please, I would love to know. I have had people from Brazil, people from Canada, and I love to know where this live is going to, especially when it's outside of the country. It's exciting to know, people are listening to this. And if you have lost hope, let me know. Let me know what you want me to pray about, and I will pray about it. But yes, so thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I see kiddos coming out, but I love you guys. I'm gonna jump in later to another live, and you guys just have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, y'all. God bless.